right, guys. Okay, so again, the objective is to we export a number of files, right? So that was these two files came together, you know, and I exported this right here, which are the diagrams themselves. Let's just keep in mind the size of it, right? This is what's interesting about the assignment, right? I mean, you might have a section that is very populated and very dense, and then you have objects like way out there, and like way out there. So then, in terms of the scale, you might need to, you know, quote unquote, cheat a little bit, so that again, you know, you may again, since this is not to scale, and let's say that in reality these subjects, you know, are like way out here, right? Well, we might need to bring them in a little bit, right? And again, what will be driving, or what it's actually going to be working for us, you know, and what actually is be, you know, for us, the information will be the numbers themselves. So again, it's a sketch, right? So let's maybe start there. So, you know, you guys we're working on your diagrams. This one's right here, and yeah, you know, just walk around. I mean, Samina's doing something interesting right there with the photos. You know, since this diagrams kind of came up, it's something that you'll be doing in order to explain your projects. I know that I had to do a multiple of this when I was in school. And I really wanted to recommend these guys right here. They're called Minima Forms, right? Minima Forms. They're two brothers. They studied in London, I think, but I think they're Greek. So anyway, they have these project installations, right? And what's really neat about them is their drawing. Well, I mean, all their work is really interesting, but the drawings that they do in order to represent their work, you know, I mean, that's kind of like the sort of diagrams that you'll soon be doing, right? And that's kind of where we're starting right now. So this one right here, you know, from a top view, right? I mean, how these people interact with, in this case, this installation, right? So again, maybe it can give you a little bit of a, you know, background, and, you know, just check their work, Minima Forms. They're really, really interesting architects. So that's what we'll be doing. All right, so you guys familiar with exporting lines from Rhino? Well, let's do a refresher, right? So once you get your diagrams done, make sure that you turn off the images. We don't need those images. If you are tracing with the images, some of you guys jumped into Google Earth. That's awesome. That's great. Again, don't spend too much time on the detail. This is the case where we're not so much, you know, concerned with the detail. We just need an overall idea of where we were standing. So turn off those reference images, and again, select the work that you want to export, and we type export. All right, so we export all of this work right here. Just make sure that don't do as I did right now. Something really important is that you change the file format. Okay, by default, it's going to be set to Rhino, so you end up with 2 Rhino files, but you actually want to the format to be Illustrator. So it is right there, Adobe Illustrator. I just like to call them something simple that it reminds me what it is, right? So I just call this line exports, right? But we can call this diagram export. And I'm not yelling, diagram export. Right, there you go. X save. I think there should be a window that pops up. Yes. For right now, just hit OK. All right, and that generates an Illustrator file. So I can double click on that, and it gives me this. Okay, so again, the first thing that we should do on Illustrator should be to create or set up our file. So file new, 11 by 17. Again, important, make sure that your units are correct. It should be inches. Create. And oh, I didn't realize, but there were extra boards. We just need to get to document setup and edit artboards. And I'm gonna get rid of these two other boards because we don't need them. Escape. Control 0. If you press Control 0, zooms into the entire area of the board. And we can start, as I always recommend, just start with placeholders. I mean, so I press T for text. You know, you can bring in a text box right there. And even if you don't know what it is yet, you know, you can just call this title. Although we do know what this is, right? I mean, force perspective. I start working with the size of this. And again, later on, you can come back and tune your fonts. You want something more fun or whatever, right? For right now, these are just placeholders. You come where you where you the file that you exported. I talk about this. Make sure that when if you go to your layers right here, this icon, and you go to this little other icon right here that has 3-4 lines I can really see together, make sure that this setting is on. Right? Paste remember layers. As you see right here in this file, I have all of the layers that I was using on Rhino, which is super helpful. It's very nice. Okay, so if that setting is not on, right, let's actually maybe I actually turned it off. Right, I'm gonna copy paste all of this. Everything gets thrown into one single layer. It remains the colors, the colors remain, but now everything is just layer one. Not so helpful, right? So I'm gonna undo that, right? Paste remember layers, copy paste. I'm using Control C for copy, right? And there we go, right? We have all of the layers came with us. Okay. From here, you know, you'll work with the scale. You know, I mean, how big do you increase these things right here? For right now, you know, I'll just bring them up like that. I don't need this lines right here. I'm going to delete them. What I suggest is that you group them, right? So that's my elevation, right? So I selected, Control G, groups it. Select the plan drawing, Control G, group it. Okay, let's go back to the original board. As you see, I have actually also made them line up, right? So the plan lines up with the elevation, right? Meaning that, again, if I project lines, right, the objects are stacked on top of each other. Meaning that I have, in this case, the elevation is working, right? So I bring that over here. However, the plan, we need to do what? Rotate it, right? Correct. So I'll hold shift, right? Rotate it. And it's kind of matching right there. Yeah, it is. Right? So I'll bring that right there. Okay. From there, I'm using the pen tool. Right? I press P for pen tool in order to create these callouts. Right? Right? And I use my arrow right here. And yeah, I know if you know you had me for Studio 2 last semester, we worked on this, or for media. I'm gonna again work with line weights as well. So in this case, I'm gonna send that to a thinner line, say 0.75, and change its color. I'm gonna change that to black. So send this right there, and I'm using text boxes right here. So again, if we look at the example, right, I'm labeling it by the name, right? So Big Bear or Teddy Bear or whatever it is, right? And then I'm also labeling the layer, right? What layer is this? Layer 1, 2, 3, 4, and again, that comes from your Rhino layers down here. Right, which layer? So now we're making the connection, right? Okay, so little house number 1, or and you have it right here. I have right house or house to the right. This should be left house, left house. It's layer X layer, and I'm even changing the color, right? So this actually should be that blue right there. So again, we're color coding, we're diagramming, and we are waiting for the laptop to respond. There we go. So we do that right there. So I'm using those layers, which again, if we come to the final photograph, should be matching that right there, right? So house to the right, house to the left, we'll have beetle, or you know, car, you know, and again, you can call these subject 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or you know, I mean, kit 1, kit 2, you know. It's up to you, whatever works. We'll label our light sources, our camera position, and here, well, again, part of it is how to differentiate among objects. So I'm using some of the fill components. Right, so like for example, the camera, I could select that. So they're in a group right now, so I'm going to double click on it. So I select it, and then I come over here to the left. Right, it says that it has no fill. But actually, I can actually just escape, and I'm going to flip them, right? So I'm going to remove the outline and give it a fill, like that. So it actually turns into a solid object. You could then, I mean, if you want, you can give it a black outline. Right? Do that. Just I would decrease the weight of it. Start doing that. So the idea is that objects kind of start popping. I'm kind of seeing it. These lines right here for your light sources, let's make sure to turn them dashed. Right? Stroke, dashed. And again, I'm going to change that dash setting maybe to a 6 so that it actually stands out a little bit different from this other one. That might have been too much. Right? So it all depends on how big your drawings, end up being. So again, just experiment with that. But as you can see, actually, also these objects right here were solid on Rhino. They're actually solid right here. But I went ahead and dashed them, just for legibility here on Illustrator. Okay, we can do that as well here. Okay, so labeling, again, as I mentioned, some distances, right, between objects, and I did that again just with the pen tool. Again, press P for pen tool, and again I draw this kind of U shape. Right? Make sure that again it's solid, right? Because right now it's dash, so I select it, right? Come over here to the stroke, remove the dashed, right? And send it to black. Okay. Now also remember that there's the eyedropper tool. Right? So if I select an object, I can match all of the properties from adjacent or any object rather on the document. So if I press the letter I for eyedropper, this target appears. And again, well, first you need to select the object that you want to match the properties. Right? So I select that U right there, I for eyedropper, click on that object right there, and it matches the properties. Okay? So that's very helpful as well. Right? And I'm just making one of them. Right? And I can come over here, right? And again, I use my smart guides on, and I can just stretch this, make it line up with that. Stretch this right here, make it line up with that. And these are just simple text boxes. I'm holding Alt and dragging, right? So make a copy of it, and again, maybe 2 right there. Okay. So where we're gonna have to get creative, right, is how to, again, all of this kind of chaos right here, I mean, how do we start dimensioning that, right? I mean, so that's what I mean that perhaps we play a little bit with the spacing, right? Because this one you see that actually I had to kind of like move down here in order for things to fit, and even there I would move this a little bit more, but that's not ideal. I mean, I remember that we can also, if necessary, whoops, rotate a little bit the text. So if I right click on it, transform, rotate, let's see what happens if we maybe give it a 45. I start doing kind of that. I'm not sure that, I don't know if the eyedropper will match the rotation. It doesn't. So we just have to go individually to one, but if you create one, you can just copy paste it and kind of use those right there. Or if you already have it right there generated, transform, rotate, and 45 again. These really, there's no need because they do fit, but there's kind of so there's that. I mean, however you see it fit work better. I did place the images as we talked about, as we have right there on the board. Right, give it an outline right there. There's the images right there of the setup itself. Right? There they are. For that, I just use File, Place. We go to the photographs right there. Actually, I'm missing the actual final one, which Julia just sent me. Right, so I go to File, Place. No, and there's that. They're huge, of course, right? So I select them, hold on Shift, and I can scale them down. Or, we can even scale them on Photoshop beforehand, but that's okay. So, bring it somewhere there or something. I don't know. And so again, I'll work on the layout as well, just so that everything nicely. So these things, for example, this text box is aligning with those photographs, right? And I have this nice alignment right there. This one, for example, I mean, that was the idea, that this text would align right with that right there. So it's neatly organized. And so we have that part right there. Okay, so that was the diagram part. colors, line weights, text, and arrows or leaders. It's called, and pointing out what the components are. Okay. Questions? All right. Okay, guys. What was that? What does this do? We'll talk about due dates. Yes. Okay, now that's the first part. Now the second part is actually generating these drawings right here, right, which you already have 3D model. Now it's exporting these things right here. Okay. So again, that's simple since you already have the 3D model itself. Okay. All right. So we left off somewhere over here where you guys were tracing and you were extruding, correct? All right. So what I have done is I exaggerated the layers, the spacing between the layers. Go to perspective. And by exaggeration means that the spacing right now among layers is not really the foam board that you guys are using. This is actually more of again a diagram explaining the sequence of the layers, not so much the actual spacing between the layers. Okay, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So make sure that you make a copy of this drawing that you should have with all of the layers on the same plane, right? They're all matching. Okay, so I'll make a copy of that. Bring it somewhere out here. I'll hold shift so that it's aligned to it. Okay. As you can see, I have frames. Right? It's very helpful to see these frames right here, and you see how I dashed them on the board itself. They're not physically there, right? I mean, when we'll see your final model, I mean, each layer doesn't have a frame like that. However, it's very helpful to see that actually all of them, right? I mean, fit among the same surface, right? I mean, that actually they're being stacked up. And that's what this dashed line or dashed outline is helping us see. Okay, and I'll show you guys how to create that. Very easy, right? So we have one of it right there in place. So there's the copy command. However, you select the object that you want to copy, right click. There's this option right here on top. It says copy, and then it says in place. So it's going to generate a copy and it's going to place it right on top. Okay, so I do that. Right click, repeat. Now, right, you see that I have 2. Right, so I'm going to create as many as I have layers. So now I have 3. Right click, copy, in place. Now I have 4. Right, and again, I only have 4 layers right here, so that's all I have. Okay, is that clear so far? Yeah. Okay, guys. So now, what we're gonna do is kind of accordion them, right? Kind of like explode them. Actually, what it is, right? So in this case, yellow is the first layer. So I select yellow, hold shift, and select one of the frames right there, just one of them, right? And I'm gonna bring it towards me. So I'm gonna move it in the minus direction, and I'm doing this right now in increments of 5. It might work for you 5 as well, or just see the spacing, right? So I'm gonna do -5, enter, right? First layer moved. Whoops. Whoa. Where am I? There you go. So here am I. Okay. So first one, it's been moved with its corresponding frame. Okay. In this case, these two should be on the same layer, but I'm gonna use them in different layers just so that I have more layers to work with. So the next one, right? So the first one is the seating guy. The next one is gonna be one of these floating girls. So actually, I'm gonna leave that one right there in place. All right. Now I'm gonna go into the third layer. Right. Right. I select. Right. Actually, I'll select everything, but here, just so that it's easier, maybe we'll do it on the same direction. Right. How about I move this another 5 and another 5, so that we move everything in the same direction. I don't want to confuse you. All right. So I'll select that lady right there, and then one more frame. So I'll move this now. The first one was 15, I think, if you add the numbers right there. So move this now minus 10. Right. And then this one over here with this one, I'll move it how much? -5. Right, so -5, and we got that right there. See it? Yeah. So there's the spacing. Again, this is just showing the sequence of the layers. Okay, it's kind of neat, no? Just the outline for this part right here. Okay. All right, guys. So that's that part. Now the next part is actually turn this into an isometric drawing. So we select it. Right. We go to set view, isometric, and I'm going to select southeast isometric. Right, so it brings it all together, but right now it's being selected. So if we go up here and select and click on zoom selected, it maximizes that right there. Okay, so we have that view. Now you'll see as well that I have a text object, which is nice, right? So we can actually do that real quick. Right? So we can, if you type text, is that right? Let's see. It's called layer 1, and I'm gonna snap to that layer right there. I created this additional layer right here called text to my right. I'm gonna send that text that I just created called layer 1 into that layer text. Again, I'm way up here. There it is. And I can move this just a little bit upwards, and I copy from there to there to there to there. You double click on the text object, 2, 3. It got highlighted for some reason that I don't want it to. Oh, there it is. So there we go. We have that. Okay, guys. Now, how do we turn well, a 3D object into a flattened image, flattened lines? It's a make 2D, right? So again, because this is, even though they're just lines, it's still 3-dimensional, right? So rotating around it. But I just got rid of my view, so I'm gonna select them one more time. Right, go to set view, isometric, southeast, zoom selected, so I get that right there. Okay, and you guys are right. Select the objects, right? Make 2D. Okay. Right, and we go to the top view. Make sure the first thing that you do is actually type group. So it's actually group, and move it out of the way. Right, so that gives us that drawing right there. Okay. When I exit out of the top view, I'm going to go back to my parallel view. I'm going to go back to my perspective view. Oops. Shaded and set view perspective. And then now we're just going to capture our 1-point perspective, which again, we're going to place it center with the screen. Right, so about that distance, that distance, that distance, that distance, center. I'm going to hold Control and right-click scrolling. Right. I'm holding Shift so that I'm placing this, right? I'm moving this. Hold Control and scroll out a little bit, right, so that we get this 1-point perspective. Right? I mean, as best as we can. Right, without cheating right there. I can select the text and move it out of the way a little bit, right, so that it's a little bit clearer, whatever is legible. And actually, it wasn't exporting on this kind of view, so we'll see if that actually works. But again, now we want to see the layers fading into the, I guess, vanishing point, right, for this 1-point perspective. Right, so again, we select, we type make 2D, and click OK. Double click on perspective, double click on top view. Again, you can just click where it says right here zoom selected. Since it's already exported it, it's selected. And first thing that we do, we type group, enter, move, so that you can get it out of the way. Okay. There's a setting right here that I forgot to deselect when you do the make 2D, so that we don't get those frames. And so I'm just gonna show you guys right here. This one right here, viewport rectangle. Unclick that when you're generating your make 2Ds. Group output is checked, but it doesn't group the output unless I'm doing something wrong. But anyway, if you unselect that viewport thing, it will get rid of this rectangle right there, which we actually don't need. This viewport right there. I mean, sometimes it's nice to have it. In this case, we don't need it. Okay, so same deal. We select the objects, export. Do exports, and again, this is the let's call this construction export. So we save it, click OK, and again, if we go to the folder where we saved it, right, construction export, double click on it, open it. I'm not sure what this message means, but just click OK if you get it. You guys are working on a slider, actually newer version, so I'm gonna get rid of those frames as I mentioned right there. Select them, delete them, and again, select them, Control G to group, select them, Control G to group, select them, Control copy, so that you can actually paste them. And we paste them into the board itself here. You saw that I double click on the group itself, and I select the outlines and I turn them into a dash. And the rest is it's pretty much the same. You have those colors matching. Okay. And just to answer Pablo's question in terms of the color and how to get the white background in those images, let me get back to the file. The last drawing that we're exporting is your extrusions, which in this case is this one right here for me. As are selected. So that's the extrusions. And again, the extrusions, well, why do we work on the extrusions? So it helps you with your model, right? So actually build that, right? So actually you have an idea of how this is going to look. I generate some sort of perspective where you can see the project. And we're gonna do this case, we're just gonna do an export of an image rather than lines. Okay, so you guys remember view, capture to clipboard. All right, we click OK, and it's stored on the machine, right? And then we just do Control V and paste it. Okay. Now, if your screen or if your background is not white, it works nice, right? Because I mean, it's a white sheet. Very simple, right? Just type options. So I see most of the, well, I think all the computers right here, they're on gray. We go to appearance right here to the left. Okay, we click on that drop down menu, or that little arrow right there menu. Colors. So colors right here to the left. We go to the right here, background, and we have white. Or, I mean, if you want to have a black background, it's cool too. Right, that means though that your Illustrator sheet right here would have to be black, and everything that is black, such as the text, should be white. that also works very nicely, especially with these bright colors like that. Okay, so again, going a little bit fast, right, just so that we can actually cover the content. But remember that all of this is being recorded right now. Now, actually, that being said, questions? Anything that? Okay, just go back one more step. So for new, yes, for the what? The extrusion, yeah. So that's the capture to clipboard. That's how we do the extrusion. We paste it, and now this is an image, right? These are lines, right? These are all lines right there. These are vectors, and this is just an image that is shown in the extrusions. And then what do we have right here at the end? Right. So those are photographs of the actual final model, right? Which is what you guys are working on, right? That being said, make sure that when you're taking these photographs, because again, the idea is that we're working this sort of a portfolio piece. So have a black background or a white background, have a good lighting, right? And okay, so we'll Tuesday, correct? Okay, Tuesday. Any more questions for the technical part of this?